folks, and welcome to Great Chesterford Junction Model Railway. Well, today what we're taking a look at is making your own ballast, and it's a lot easier than you might think it is, and all you need is the right gear to sort it out, and you're pretty much on your way. I'll show you two methods that I use. One of them I only sort of happened upon yesterday. The penny dropped. I thought maybe I could use this as well. So I'll show you both methods. One's fairly easy and one's just a tiny bit harder. You just need a little bit more gear, but you get a good result either way you go. So let's have a look at the simple method number one first. Now method number one involves gravel from my driveway, folks, and as you can see I've got, they call that road base here in Australia, but in amongst all that is some of the finer stuff, and it's inevitable, you know, with the car running over the thing every day just about, it's bound to crush some of the larger pieces up into smaller pieces. But you don't have to have a gravel driveway. You can get gravel from anywhere that you see it and collect it, and you can sift it out to make sure you get the right size gravel. Now what you need, folks, is a couple of takeaway containers, or three, whatever you've got, just to capture the gravel once it's sifted. Then you need two sifters, and this one has a fine mesh, and I'm guessing that the squares in there are about 1 millimetre square, and this is a more coarse sifter. This is about 2 millimetres square. Now with gravel, I start with the sifter with the larger openings in it, the 2 millimetre mesh, and you can see that I've just got a scoop of gravel here, and you think, well, how can that turn into ballast? Well, I'll show you very shortly. So yeah, you get a scoop of gravel in the largest sifter. Then place it over the takeaway container, and you need something to stir it with. I've been using a steel ruler, which is fairly good, and just stir it around in there, and you'll hear particles dropping through the mesh and going into the container. I probably could have taken a bit of gravel out of this sifter. There's probably a bit too much in there. But what I'm doing is sort of rubbing the smaller bits of gravel against the mesh and sort of forcing it through, if they will fit through the mesh. Obviously the bigger stuff's not going to go through, and we'll discard that when we're sort of satisfied with how much we've got. So we just carry on like that for a while. Then we finish up with a container with this smaller gravel in it. Right, we now bring in a second container to hold the gravel, and then we bring in the smaller sifter and tip the contents of the original sifting into this smaller sifter. Now what this will do is get rid of the fine particles that are in the sifter at the moment and leave us with some ballast. So we just stir that around. And this fine matter that's passing through is also usable as well. It's good. It becomes like a very fine sand, I suppose you would call it, and yeah, it's quite good actually. I've used it a number of times, and once it's down, you can add some colour to it if you want to. You can sort of paint over it. So I'm not too worried about colour with ballast, because I usually paint over it anyway. Now we've got a few little bits of junk in there, bits of grass and stuff, but what we're left with now is our ballast. And that's it there. So I can show you how it goes on to a piece of track. We'll get that set up and I'll show you that. You should bear in mind too, I'm talking about HO or 00 scale here. So we'll just tip some of that into the track. There's bits of junk in there as well which I haven't filtered out, but you know, sometimes that's necessary. Depends where you get the gravel from. I've got bits of grass and stuff in here. Anyway, that'll do for the demonstration. So we'll just sort of spread that out with the finger, put it in, Give it a bit of a tap with a ruler. Spread it out a bit more. Now this is just not done properly as you would do it to use on your railway, but it gives you an idea. So let's get a bit of a close-up of that. So there we are. It's not too bad, you know, for something that's just been pushed in there quickly. Okay, well that was method number one, and I think you'll agree that that's a fairly simple way to do it, as long as you've got access to a supply of gravel somewhere. Especially if you're out in the countryside, you're bound to find some somewhere, even if you scoop it up, put it in a bag and take it home and then work out all the sifting from there. I've done that before. Years ago I found that after rain here in Sydney you get an accumulation of sediment on some street corners in the gutters, and very fine material, and it's been washed clean. And so I've just taken a little bag with me on one of my morning walks and just scooped it up and brought it home in my backpack. So anyway, yeah, gravel, fairly simple. You can do it yourself, and admittedly it's not coming in the specific colours that you get in proprietary products, but you can paint over it yourself. Anyway, now let's have a look at method number two. Okay folks, method number two involves using these, they're a mixture here of walnut shells and almond shells. Now you could just use one or the other. The walnut shells are a bit harder and give you probably a more well-defined sort of ballast, and the almond shells are a bit softer, so they come out a bit more powdery. You do get fine material out of both of these, similar to the gravel method, but I don't mind mixing these two together. I get a reasonable result, and I'm getting ballast that's about the colour of cork. So I'll show you what else we need to get this going. And what we need is this is a coffee grinder, and you can see this one's been really well used. I use this for my making my own flocking, etc. So you can see it's got a bit of a green tinge to it. But this is what we use to break up the shells, and then sift them out the same as the other method to get the ballast. But this time we do it in reverse. We use the small sifter first to get the fine powder out of the mix, and then we use the larger sifter to finally arrive at the ballast that we want. Yeah, so what we do folks is we put some of the shells into the coffee grinder. Not too many. You can jam it if some of the shells get caught under the blade, but that'll do for the moment. So we'll just leave it at that. We'll whack the lid on and then give it a whiz. It can take a bit of a while because there's so many big bits in there. Give it a bit of a shake. Now when you take the lid off, there'll be a bit of dust, so you might want to use a mask to do this depending on where you are. It's probably better done outside actually. So we'll just remove the lid. Oh, there wasn't much dust that time, but we've got a reasonable mix in there, and so now we'll go through the sifting process. Now as I said before, we'll start with the smaller sifter this time. That'll get the fine powder out and leave behind a reasonable size ballast. So I'll use the ruler again and just stir it around gently, and you can see I'm getting some powder in the bottom there now. So we'll just work that around for a little bit until we think we've exhausted the fine powder in the mix here, and we're probably getting close to that. Now this mix that's in here now can probably have another go in the grinder, but we'll see what we achieve once we've sifted it the second time. So that's probably enough of that one. You can see I've got the fine stuff out. So now we'll go to a second container and we'll tip this remains here into the larger sifter. And so anything that's about 2 mil is going to pass through this one and leave behind the bigger bits. And the bigger bits, as I said, can go back through the grinder again if you want. You just see how you go. So, you know, it takes a bit of time to do this. And what you finish up with though is a nice sort of gravel, actually, I reckon. I think there are some commercial products out there that actually use these resources for their gravel, but I think they do a much finer gravel than I'm able to. I don't know the process that they go through, but this is just my homemade version of it. And let's see how we're going here. Right, let's have a look. We've still got a fair bit of big stuff there. So we've got ourselves some ballast here. So you can see it's that sort of cork colour. So what we'll do is we'll show you some more close-ups of this, and I'll put some of this in the track as well so you get a better idea of how it works. Okay, this is what it looks like. I've been making some up for the last couple of days. We've got some nuts inside, so we've been saving the shells for ballast. So what we'll do is we'll add some of that to the track here. So we'll just zoom in a bit more. Right, so we'll just add some to the track. As I said before, you know, this is just a rough method here, just for the demonstration purposes. So we'll just smooth that out. Yeah, you need to take a lot more care when you're doing this if you're actually doing it for real on a piece of your railway. But yeah, I think it comes up fairly well. We'll just give that a bit of a tap. And I've got a bit of tube here. It's actually a bit of heat shrink tube, and you can blow it off. Just to clean it up a bit. And it's done. So let's have a closer look at that. Yeah, so there we are, folks. That's the combination of walnut and almond shell. I think it looks pretty good, actually. And if you don't like the colour, well, just paint over it. And once you've done the usual installation of it with the you know, mist spraying it, and then 50-50 water with the dropper to sort of secure it all in there, I think the PVA will sort of protect it. It'll seal it, and it should last for years. So there you are. That's how it comes up. And as I said in the introduction on the titles, there's nothing to it. Okay, folks, that's your lot for this one. So I'll leave you with it, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers. Gourmet.